Last week was fantastic. We had a myriad of individuals join the conversation regarding Ahmaud Arbery. And again, we said we wanted to have a real-time conversation on what's happening in our communities and give everybody an opportunity and a chance to express themselves. And we had various individuals to come in. So, last week we had Dr. Briscoe, who's known as the Endurer. He came in and he did his thing. We had Ernest Krim the third. He came in and he did his thing. Pastor Gathers, Sterling Gilmore, one of our Gary Comer students, added his voice to the conversation, one of our CHAMPS mentees, and now he's a mentor, as well as our CHAMPS photographer. Let me not leave that out. And then, of course, we had one of our youngest CHAMPS mentees last week who just got a full ride to North Park University. He joined the conversation, and he's over at Kenwood, Jonathan Guesche. He came in and he shared some solutions and some thoughts and ideas on what's going on in his mind, as well as other youth that are out there experiencing this. So, with Briscoe, with Ernest, with Gathers, with Sterling, with Jonathan, and then we reached all the way down to the south and brought in a brother from Oklahoma, Juhan Irons, who's helping out at the Great Kip Tosa College Preparatory School, a school where I used to serve as assistant principal, ran now by one of the greatest principals, Dontario Marzette. And shout out to Darius Kirk as the executive director. Great job. I'm looking forward to continuing our partnership with CHAMPS out in Oklahoma. But Juhan, he came from a whole different perspective and added his voice. And then we reached out to the other side of the table and brought in Coach Gavin Lamb, who's been working hand in hand on the south side at Gary Comer College Prep since the very beginning as a founding member, and as the head coach of the football teams, work with the CHAMPS mentoring program as a staff member. But he's a white ally, and he got on and he shared some fire on last week. And he said, hey, we need everybody to get involved. He said many of our counterparts, they don't really care, not because they don't have a heart, it's just they not interacting with black and brown individuals every day. So if you out there, listen, I don't care who you are, mother, father, sister, brother, white, black, Presbyterian, Baptist, I don't care who you are. Let's join in this conversation so we can move towards real, tangible, sustainable solutions for our young men. And then I was really glad to have one of my college buddies, Rashad Sanders, who's out in the Houston area, added his voice on last week. And then Christian Terry, who's a young man who's a part of the CHAMPS staff, who was one of the first CHAMPS mentees. He talked about how he gets afraid as a larger African-American man. When he leaves his home, he gets profiled. People say, hey, well, he's tall and he's black. So, he have experiences of not only being afraid of black on black crime, but black on white crime. So he's like, man, I have fear on both sides of the conversation. So, it was just really good to hear from him as a young 20-year-old, 21-year-old. And then Aaron Williams, who works with the Chicago police, joined the conversation last week. So I wanted to take the time to say thank you for all of those who shared this conversation, for all of those who tuned in. We want you to dial in. We want you to share this, especially with young men that need to figure out, how do I navigate this world as a black and brown young man? This is real talk. This is a real conversation. And so I can't do the heavy lifting on my own. It would be crazy for me to do this work by myself. So I invited in other men that will be joining our conversation tonight. And so with that in mind, I wanted to share out those individuals who will be coming in to share on tonight. And so, again, I'm super excited about conversations that we will start up and engage with you. So we do have some intros to let you know who's about to come in. And I want my brother, Christopher Crater, who's working with the Obama Foundation, and he's boots on the ground. This brother worked with Urban Prep for many, 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 many years, and has done a phenomenal job. And I'm going to bring in Brother Chris.
Thank you so much, Mr. Singleton, for having me tonight. I'm extremely excited to be able to be here and also to learn, from you, brother. So I'm excited.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, brother, for joining in this conversation. We definitely are super excited to have you here. What's one thing that you're looking forward to tonight?
I think some solutions, right? I know a lot of times it's awesome to be able to give different perspectives and to receive different perspectives, but also some solutions, some things that we can take away from this and actually try to apply boots on the ground.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And another good brother who's been giving his time to the Champs Mentor Program, Brother Jashar Hartley. I'll bring him in. How you doing, good brother? How you feeling tonight?
Man, I'm feeling great, feeling amazing being on a panel with guys of the caliber of you guys. So my name is Jashar Hartley. Most people call me Jay. Um, Owner and CEO of Property Blessings. It's a real estate investing company based in Northwest Indiana, investing in Chicago and Northwest Indiana submarkets. Also in management with Geico Insurance. So this conversation is very relevant. I'm very excited. And it's so important to me because I was that young youth on 79th and Cottage Grove. So it helped me to find solutions to get to this point. So look forward to having a conversation.
And thank you, brother. We're going to go over to Brother Malik Jones, one of our young men.
How you doing? So again, it's Malik Jones. I'm very excited to be here tonight. Just talk about some of the solutions and some of the problems that occur over generations at times, and also just to be here and get some point of views from older generations before me, and just understand just different things that we can do to help.
So Malik is one of our young men who went to Gary Comer College Prep, graduated from Gary Comer, and he has a passion for music. He served in many capacities and clubs and various events across Gary Comer, and he was one of our Champs mentees right there on Saturdays, involved, giving his voice, and also kind of sharing with some of the other young men. So I'm super glad that you here. But you're not the youngest. You're not the youngest tonight,
Sir. No,
Malik. We have another young man who's a graduating senior from Gary Comer College Prep, and I'm going to bring him on. Thaddeus Jones. I see my brothers out there clapping for him. Welcome, Thaddeus. How you doing tonight, brother?
I appreciate it. I'm well. I'm just happy to be on a panel and get to speak about, the things that are going on with my class, 2020. My name is Thaddeus Jones Jr. I'm a 2020 graduate from Gary Comer College Prep. I will be attending Columbia College Chicago in the fall, minor in graphic design, other way around, kind of. But I have a backstory on, how I got involved in champs and everything. So, I think it was eighth grade year. We met Mr. Singleton, and he introduced me to Gary Comer. He gave me a tour around the school and everything. So that's kind of how I got started at Gary Comer and ended at the best school, one of the best Nova schools. And then, Champs has been a home to me. That's how I met most of my brothers, the people that, I would do anything for. Miss Singleton been my mentor since day one, showing me the ropes, the rights and the wrongs, and just helping me go through them, guide me through them day by day. So I appreciate everything.
Hey, man, I appreciate you. And congratulations. I'm going to give you a clap as well because, you know, it's been really, really, really a tough time. There we go. There we go. We got to clap it up. We got to clap it up. It's been a tough time throughout this pandemic, but, you know, we have to start to think about when we leave this pandemic, what are we about to face? And I say that because we have been in an epidemic for a long time. High gun violence, unemployment rates have been high, and many people forget that this life is still happening on top of what the world is experiencing. So to have a young man who just shared with you all that I had the privilege and opportunity to meet him and his family when he was an 8th grader, getting ready now as a class of 2020, about to graduate. Can you just kind of share what some of your plans are?
Well, my plan for the 4 years, maybe more, just kind of get as educated as I can. You can never have too much education. There's nothing wrong with getting an education. There's nothing wrong with going to school, going to college, community college, wherever. Just as long as you get an education and you staying involved. So I feel like that's what's most important, is staying involved and just kind of focusing on the goal, especially during this time, because you can get lost. It's not the time to get lost. It's time to get stronger, kind of build mental stability.
I love it. I love it. How old are you again?
18.
18, y'all. That's what's up. And so what you'll notice about our virtual town halls, and we did this last week with Jonathan, who was also 18. Notice we have the conversations with our adult men as well as our young men, which I think is super important that we integrate the conversation. It's hard for us to suggest to 18-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 14-year-olds, and tell them how they should live their lives and what to do without including their voice. So I'm really glad that you are here connecting with our audience. And so I'm looking forward to hearing more from you on tonight. Speaking of involved, this next brother, Dr. Leatherwood, who's the founder of Black Boy Shine. He's an awesome, powerful young man who's doing great work in the city of Chicago. I'm going to bring him on and let him introduce himself.
Well, I appreciate it, Vondale. Glad to be here with everyone. Thaddeus Leatherwood, founder and CEO of Black Boys Shine, which is a campaign to illuminate the character and contributions of Black boys and men nationally and internationally. Also a doctoral candidate at the University of Chicago, looking at heterogeneity in the academic achievement of Black students. Grateful to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Man, thank you. Speaking of which, you also are a brother who's serving with the My Brother's Keeper Alliance and ran by the powerful Chris Goings. Shout out, good
Indeed.
brother. And we get the privilege to really, come together, collaborate, and talk through some of these issues. What do you like the most about that collaboration, that alliance with My Brother's Keeper?
Yeah, I think that the collaboration in itself is one of the most powerful pieces that, I take away from it every time that we meet, right? The idea that we're networking with over 75 professionals across 30 plus organizations to improve opportunity for 125,000 Black and brown boys on the south and west sides of Chicago, right? Individuals who are serious and intentional about getting together and not only doing what Brother Crater just said, right? Having the discourse, but moving towards capital, these networks that can love on each other and bring to bear what we have, what we've been cultivating in our own spaces. It's an amazing experience, and I'm just grateful to be a part of that collective. So yeah, amazing just to be a part of that number.
Absolutely. And I got a brother that's joining our conversation all the way from the Motor City, Detroit, Michigan. His name is Lance Woods. Come on, brother, and introduce yourself.
Oh man, appreciate it, Vondale. I gotta give a backstory like that he just did, man. My background is in education, so I had an opportunity to come to Chicago and also in other cities. And I gave Vondell a call through an Eventbrite, and we had a dope conversation. He like, man, come on down, like you will love it. And I came down, and it was incredible what you had going on there. So I appreciate what you got going on in Chicago. I was able to kick it and break bread with some of the youth and also some of the speakers that you had there. So it was an incredible time. But my name is Lance Woods, co-founder of We Run 313. We Run 313 is a social run club to connect like-minded individuals through running to build a more happier and healthier community. So I'm empowering people to dismantle limiting beliefs that they have within themselves in terms of running. But the thing about running is deeper to do with mental and spiritual and also emotional. So when you run in those miles, have a deeper connection with self. So you unlocking unlimited potential that you have to go further in life, and it constantly gives you that analogy to just keep putting one foot in front of the next, and keep striving for whatever goals you have in life. And that's what I'm doing with the entire community. And it's beautiful to witness the development and growth, and not only youth but also adults. And I'm just in position, man. Like Tony said, just doing God's work, just bringing the community together.
Yeah, man, we really glad to have you on. I love the work that you're doing. I love the work that all the brothers on this panelists are doing. And we need to continue to have efforts outside of the box. And when you talk about the mental and now you're actually activating the physical, I think it's really a win-win, because it's one thing to have wisdom and knowledge, but you don't last because your health is bad. And so I believe the spirit, the soul, and the body, we need to be more holistic in our solutions and our approaches so that we can live long to carry out our purpose and fulfill our purpose. So, man, I get inspired every time I see you, brother. Welcome. This next brother, last but not least, is Otis Woods from CICS right here in Chicago, and he's running the CHAMPS program. Come on in, brother Otis. Introduce yourself, brother.
Hi, everybody doing? My name is Otis Woods, and I'm really honored to be here on this virtual town hall meeting. I love having these type of conversations. I had these conversations all the time in the barbershops, anywhere I can with other Black men, just to pick their brains and see how I can add their ideas to mine. Like Vondell said, I'm at CICS in Longwood Middle School. I heard about the CHAMPS when I was teaching 12th grade. I've been teaching for 3 years now. When I was teaching 12th grade, I heard somebody talk about CHAMPS in a commencement speech. And I just went up to him and asked him more about it. And he said, he pulled me out to Vondell. And I just contacted with Vondell, had a conversation with us in his office. And I just went from there. So I wanted to bring this program to my school. And I did it. And it's ongoing for 2 years now. So I'm just part of this conversation just to really pick everybody's brain and add to really my main goal personally in my life is to transform Black communities more of its power. I don't think Black people understand about power. We need power to control our well-being. So really, that's my main mission in my life, just to contribute to how Black people can gain power in their communities.
And can you just talk a little bit more, and we'll kind of just start with you in general, like talk about some of the problems that we're seeing so people can have an idea. Obviously, you're an educator. You've been working inside of the school system, and I was really, really, really impressed to have you reach out to me. I'm like, okay, who is this guy? But when you shared your heart and then you took the next step and you came in to meet with me, I knew you were pretty serious in terms of creating some real solutions for the young men that you were working with from an educational standpoint. But can you just paint a picture for what we are up against for our audience so they can know, hey, man, these are some things that I want to be able to share from a personal standpoint?
Well, first off, the issue with Black people is very complex. It's very it's compounded. Each issue is interconnected with each other. If you want to focus on education or Black boys in general, I think for me personally, for Black boys, what I see is the perception of masculinity. Black boys don't know what it's to be to have this to be a man, or they have screwed perception of what masculinity is. And I think Champs mentoring helps that perception to mature enough as they grow older. As a black teacher, they see me, for example, they see me as a black teacher. That's a great example being in the classroom. They see me talking academically, wearing Timbs and dressing like them, also dressing like professional as well, as a shirt and tie. They could do both things. So I think the main problem with black boys, in my opinion, is the perception of masculinity. And sometimes young boys have a toxic, which can carry over in adulthood, which could cause some issues.
So you said toxic, right?
Toxic masculinity, yes.
So can you just share and just break down for us, just unpack it a little bit for us? What are some of those perceptions, ideologies that you see our young men carrying out or acting out without them even knowing?
Just this idea of being tough. Just that they have to use their physicality to prove their manhood instead of their minds, and resorting to anger less than communication. Some of the issues that they have with their peers could be solved with communication skills, but they take their anger out more, and it leads and escalates the situation where it could be resolved in simple communication.
Wow. I think, like, when you talk about acting tough, like, that goes both ways though, I think, right? It's like, it's a whole mindset when it comes to, all right, I'm at school where I feel safe. I'm around people that I know that love me and care about me. But the moment I leave school, I have to now play a role, act a role for survival purposes. So I believe in some cases that acting tough is a survival tactic that we've picked up that's kind of helped us live. So, I think too, the thing that we have to make sure that we are fully aware of, and when we talk about these problems and issues, they are systemic, they are layered. It's not one solution. There are multiple solutions. So I'm going to actually bring on Dr. Leatherwood, if you would. Talk about positive identity. We hit on it just a little bit, but I'm going to bring you on and have you share out just that whole philosophy, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. So positive identity is really situated across time. It's not static. Identity is something that's not static. It's something that develops over time. And it's contextualized by what Vondale just said, systems, right? There are whole histories and whole legacies and systems and cultures, right? That's capital that is passed down to individuals from their parents, from their community, from other environments, that tells them who they should be and how they are to perform in certain contexts. So in order to help a child get to positive identity formation, what we need to do is situate them in context that is completely, that's going to completely allow for them to explore identity in a safe and pragmatic manner. What does that mean? You need to provide the proper supports for young people. When you provide the proper supports for young people, then they usually respond in an adaptive or a positive way. We know that once you do something over and over and over again, it usually becomes a behavior, which is identity. So the hope is that as we continue to cultivate these relationships with young people, and we think about their histories and who they are, and that they're vulnerable, that we provide them the proper supports that allow them to make positive, good decisions that lead to, over time, making those same decisions, the kind of identity that, is going to help them be their very best selves.
And I think what's really important is, and as soon as you said that, in my mind, I just think of the scaffold, right? Like, we have scaffolds when we build in high, and those scaffolds are there as supports. But as we continue to grow, we remove the scaffolds. Now, right. I'm in the process of teaching my 6-year-old how to ride a bike, and I decided not to get the bike with the training wheels on it, right? Like, most of us kind of grew up with the training wheels on it. But, man, I Googled a video, how to teach my son how to ride a bike, and it's a 5-minute video on YouTube where it's this guy. He's like, hey, I'll teach anybody how to ride a bike in 5 minutes. I watched the video. Wow. I practiced it. My son was able to do it. Then I had him watch the video. Here's the power in this, right? Oftentimes, we can get the transference of power where we get knowledge, we get the wisdom and the know-how. But the problem I see sometimes is we don't share it. So why did I do that with my son? I wanted my son to be able to give the knowledge and wisdom that he got from his father away as soon as he got it. So I'm like, okay, son, I taught you how to ride a bike. Now your job is to go out and teach others how to ride a bike. So I love it. I want to get Dr. Crater on from the Obama Foundation and just kind of talk high level. Obviously, you work with the number one, I believe, school in the world, Urban Prep, for many, many, many years, developing young men. Can you just kind of add to this conversation and then share some of the issues that our young men bring into the system? Dr. Crater, come on in, brother.
So I really, Dr. Leatherwood, thank you so much for giving some context and color to when we think about young men. Me was so powerful because it really not only helped me find my passion, but it really taught me about the significance of being present with our young men, right? I saw a lack of male mentorship in some of our guys' life, right? A lot of our guys said like, man, you pops to me, right? You're the first male figure I've had in my life, and you're the most consistent male I've had in my life. So definitely I would say a lack of male mentoring is huge in our community. Also trust, right? A lot of our young men are used to, having a lot of false promises, or, they have these walls up just because so many things haven't went their way. And also, I think one of the biggest pieces is advocating. A lot of our young men do not know how to advocate for themselves, right? They have experienced a lot of stuff from, starvation or, trauma from seeing someone shot and killed and not being able to express, that I'm hurting or that there's an issue or that I need help, right? I do think that our young men are so powerful because they receive the energy that's given to them, right? When they knew that I was there and I was intentional about making sure that they were safe, but that when they came in the classroom, they had to be intentional about learning, right? They started to buy in. And when they started to buy in, they knew I had high expectations. And from those high expectations, they, understood like, man, I got to bring it every time I'm in here. And I think after losing so many of my young men to gun violence, it just, it let me know how significant and intentional I have to be every time they're in front of me, that we have to bring it. But I think the issue, it's a big one, right? It's something that a lot of people don't want to talk about, or are, maybe scared to address. But our young men of color have so much power. And I think we need to be intentional about finding tangible solutions that our young people can pour into, that our young guys can, it's young man a job, but we have to tie. And we have to be able to teach him how to conduct himself in an interview. And we have to be able to, give him the tangible things too, so that he can, be able to do well in the job.
Listen, everybody, I told you these guys are coming with heat. But here's the thing. I'm gonna bring Brother Hartley in, because I think from an entrepreneurship standpoint, one of the solutions is creating jobs and opportunities. A lot of people think our youth are just out here robbing, stealing, and killing just because it's fun to do. Again, when we talk about the survival mode, you came from 79th. So I want you to just talk about what you saw coming up and tie that into what Brother Crater has mentioned and what Dr. Leatherwood has talked about. How did you make it out the hood and become successful?
Absolutely. I think that's the $1 million question that we always have. How do we get out when you're in this position? So for me, growing up on 79th and Cottage Grove, most people remembered us for the Happy's liquor store on the corner. But what I realized was that I wanted something more and that I could achieve something more. I realized that just because I didn't grow up in a certain position does not mean it's not attainable, but it might just take a little bit longer. So it created a vision. The vision was very foggy at first. I just knew I wanted more than what I had. Translate that into entrepreneurship. So I still work a full-time job as well and spend as much time in my business as I do in my full-time job as a manager. What does that mean though? Why did I do that? I did that because I understood to really make an impact. It started with being able to produce money. A lot of times we have theories or thoughts, but we're unable to act on them because we don't have the resources a lot of time to produce that. And also of property blessings in about a year will be mentoring young men so that they can have a skill moving forward to produce their in businesses moving forward. But translating that into positive identity and also being intentional. Both of the doctors on this panel mentioned intentional. And it's a very good reason. One, you have to be intentional about anything that you want in life. We're very powerful. As long as we're using this, we can get to wherever we want to. And a lot of times also being in a position now is giving people a vision, them to discover their vision. That's essential because I don't think a lot of times people in our day-to-days, and even when I realized as a youth growing up, I had a vision, but it wasn't clear. I didn't really have somebody to help me navigate that. So just being intentional brothers to be that resource to help people really build that vision and what that looks like for them and let them know that success is not just an athlete. It's not just an entertainer. It's not just a comedian. There's educators, there's businessmen, small business owners, even people in our government that's working. There's many ways that you can be successful, and success is what you make it. So
thank you, brother. I want to take that same energy and I want to get our young men on this conversation. Malik Jones. Malik is a young man who, like I said earlier, was a student at Gary Comer and was involved. So, Malik, the question that I have for you is, where do you kind of get your sense of motivation from? I remember your older brother. He also graduated from Gary Comer, and you were a little bit younger, but you came and you kind of did your own thing, but it worked. And the thing that I love about you stayed connected. So tell everybody what kind of motivated you along this journey to success, and who were some of your influences or mentors along the way?
Yeah. So some of the people that kept me motivated were people like my mom. But that's the general expectation of anybody who has that motivation. But um, outside of my household, I would say that the motivation came from just people that I've met over time. Those who looked upon me and just said that they know that I was going to be something in life, and it wasn't just the expectation that they gave me, but it was just my own expectation. I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew where I needed to go to get there. And going into Gary Comer after coming from Revere, um, it was a simple fact of it was just a new space. It was time for me to just figure out what I wanted to do. And being at Gary Comer for the 4 years of my life, and even being at Revere, I participated in every single program there was at the Gary Comer Youth Center, from being in media teams, from being one of the outreach people to talk to different guests that came around and toured the building, from also just being in things like music or singing, choir, performance, tech, everything that you can name. I did just to get myself out the knowledge that of what I wanted to do in life and how I can obtain it by just doing those simple things. Um, and also when it came to champs, it was an outlet of just having more connections when it came to people of mentorship. One of my first mentors at Gary Comer was Mr. Brown. Uh, even now, even though he's my advisor, and even though I'm gone, I graduated in 2017. I still come back to him from time to time. I still message him and say, "Hey, Mr. Brown, how can I do this?" Or, "Hey, Mr. Brown, I would like to meet you." Just to catch up. Because he was always stayed with me. I was also in a program called Launch You, where I basically had those people who would help me with my elevator pitch. They would help me with my college letters, everything that you name that somebody needed help with. I was always helped with. I even got into a program called Nutria Tyra program. You, as well as Mr. Mooney and Mr. Lawless, who was the head of the program, helped me to get there, where I was basically in a 4-year committed internship throughout college, where every year during the summer I would have a job to do. I worked at Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation for 2 summers, back to back, and even during my breaks I would go back to help them. And I also worked at Mesro Financial, and it was just a great experience to just learn how to brand myself. I was looking and listening to you guys talk about the different aspects of what does a young male look into, and like how do they get into it. Where mine was just knowing that I wanted to brand myself accordingly. I wanted to show people that no matter what, this is who I am. And so when I see people on Facebook who are about the same age as me, I see different ways that they brand themselves, and I'm just like, I stay away from it. They're my friends. I understand it. On the back end, I'm talking to them, I'm connecting with them, but that's just not my brand. I wanted to brand myself accordingly, and wanted to make sure that when people see my name, they know that it's that type of person who wants to do something in life. And currently I go to SA Institute, where I'm pursuing music, and as an artist, I wanted to learn how to mix and master myself. I started to get different things for myself, just so that way I know that I can be independent in what I do. But the more I've been at the school, it's just another way for me to learn that I want to be a producer. I want to be able to help those around me as well and bring them along the circle. I don't want it just to be my success. I wanted to help others when their success as well. So I think that's just the bigger picture of what I got out of just being at Comer, being at the different aspects of life that I've had.
So real quick, so good. But how important was it for you as a young man to stay around the right environment, the right support systems, the right connections? Because as easy as it is to say what you did, and you did do it at a very high level, so many of our young brothers get trapped in their environment, their immediate environment. So what's some of the things that you can share with some of the brothers that are watching on what you did to help you navigate?
To help me navigate, I would say it was pressure. Knowing that no matter what I do, there was always going to be just that slight thing to hold me down. And that the slight thing, I can't be specific because, it's different for everybody else. For me, it was just the knowing that I didn't want to disappoint my family. I didn't want to disappoint myself, and I didn't want to stay away from where I wanted to go in life. And so when it came to knowing those different aspects, I wanted to basically strive for something better for myself. And being with those people who, stay away from their path, it's okay to stay away from your path. I've done it plenty of times, but the way I got it back on track was knowing that if I continued to do what I was doing, it wouldn't be how I wanted to perceive myself. It wouldn't be that brand that I wanted. And so being with those programs and being with CHAMPS and being a mentor and being a mentee, it helped me to understand that, like, this is where I want to be. And in order to get there, I had to set it. It's just like studying. When you're studying for a test, you set out your goals of like, this is where I want to go with this. This is what I need to study in order to pass this. And it's the same thing with life. When you want to brand yourself, you got to set out those goals. Like, okay, I know what I need to do here. I know what I need to do to get here. And this is how I obtain it. And so that's why I had to go away with life with it.
And one thing that I want to interject, because I heard the word branding come up. Like, guys, listen to me. What you putting on your social media is an extension of who you are. Listen to what I'm saying. What you sharing is an extension of who you are. Your branding is super important. You are your brand. You don't get a second chance at your brand. So my suggestion would be to take his advice, right? You have to make the choice that you want this for yourself. And I think we want to push our young men to say, you know what? All right, the scaffold is there. The positive identity is there. We're going to give you and help guide you along the path where resources and support, networks, all of that is there. But you have to make the choice that this is what you want. And Malik, that's what you did, brother. I want Reverend Briscoe to come in, if you would, please.
Yeah, and just you wouldn't know with a middle finger up on a picture on a friend request. Those are the most. I can deal with the no picture, but the one with the middle finger asking me to be a friend, I just ignore it. It drives me crazy. Mr. Singleton, if you will, because I want to pivot this to Thaddeus, because I think before we get solution oriented, I really want you to tell a quick story. If you can condense it down, I want you to talk about the incident where you had to literally escort a young man out of a meeting to the Chicago Police Department because of a choice he made, how you felt as a mentor, and then I want Thaddeus to talk about what his generation is dealing with specifically now, especially not being able to see them. I just want you to, because that's a very powerful story you told, because I don't think I've ever seen you broken before. And I think when you shared that story, it was the first time I actually saw someone you were putting work into hurt you. So if you could share that real quick, and then we'll pivot over to Thaddeus, and then we'll really start digging into what Mr. Carter wants to get into, the solution side of talking.
Yeah, no doubt. So a few years ago, I had the opportunity to run a summer program, and myself, along with some of the other mentors, we were every single day working with young people, maybe about 35, 40 young people across the city of Chicago, just teaching them different technical skills, training them in camera usage. We were creating a short film. And so it was young people all across the city of Chicago. And so as we are working with our young people, I always talk about the importance of relationship building, right? It's one thing to engage in high-level academics and high-level given information, but it's another thing to connect that and allow the relationship building to start happening. So you start to really build relationships by asking questions: who, what, when, where. You don't assume anything, right? So I will never forget the morning of the situation that Reverend Briscoe is referring to. Was I walked into the classroom environment. I'm kind of checking the temperature of the room. I see this young man, this young kid over, and it looks like something happened to him prior to him coming. And I know that look because it was more like a distance. I hope he don't know. I hope he don't say anything to me. I hope I can just come to the environment and get out and nobody know. So I went over to him. I was like, hey, how's everything going? And he said, he started to stutter. I think I'm okay. I'm good. I said, no, you're not. I said, what's wrong? He said, well, and he was about to say something. Other kids were around, so he kind of just shut it down. It wasn't too much time after that. I get a knock at the door. I go to the classroom door. Now, this is summertime. I go outside. It's the police. Like, Mr. Singleton, we respect you. This is the reason why we knocked on the door. Generally, we would just come in and do what we have to do, but we respect you. Officer, I asked, what's going on? Officer looked at me and he said, what's going on is you got a young man in there that's involved with a murder that took place last night, and we need to apprehend him right now. So we're going to let you go ahead and do it. So I'm thinking like, okay, I got a young man in here that you're going to apprehend, and you're being gentle with me by not coming in and doing what you need to do. Who is the young man? Guess who it was? You guessed it. That same young man had that look on, right? So I politely asked the young man, go ahead and step out. You mind telling me what's going on? And at that particular point, it was just like, what have I gotten myself into? They end up taking him. And here's the crazy part of this, y'all. This is very important. the young man's sister is the one who actually called the police. I know that blew y'all mind. The reason why this young man's sister decided to call the police in this particular case is because the young man had made a decision to be involved with something that impacted the rest of his family. He didn't know it. So the guys who were looking for revenge was coming to his house, ready to shoot up the whole house, including his mother, his sister, everybody that was in the house. And the sister basically was like, I ain't got nothing to do with it. He over here, such and such program. Y'all go get him and deal with that. I was like, whoa. Going back to choices and decisions. Going back to who we surrounding ourselves with. Now, I got to say this because I don't know exactly what happened to that young man, but it did something to me as a person who invested, right, to help see this young man navigate that life. So listen to me. We have a responsibility on both sides. Mentors continue to mentor. Mentees receive the help, right, and take heed to the advice that your mentors are giving you. And again, at the end of the day, you have a choice. I got the resolve in my spirit that I'm going to go to bed every single night knowing that I did everything that I was supposed to do. So I hope that was good enough for you, Briscoe. I do want to get Thaddeus Jones in this conversation. How you doing tonight, Thaddeus?
Good. I'm good. I'm ready to talk about this because I have a lot I have to say.
Man, it's your floor, man.
All right. So first, I feel like what's wrong with us is like brown boys, African Americans. I feel like most of us feel kind of misunderstood and kind of lost. We only really become, we only really can become what we see. So it's like, when we're raised on these blocks that are having all these shootings and we seeing people shoot, sell drugs and, do all of that stuff. That's what these young men are used to. And, we don't receive a lot of help. So I feel like it's important to have guys like, mentors like you around or you all around so that we can have that guidance, kind of be told like, hey, chill out, do this, it's time to level up, it's time to get on your grind and, do all that. I feel like a lot of young men need that more than anything. It's a lot about guidance. So
Yeah, and so do you believe that as far as you going after your purpose and going after the things that you believe in your heart that you've been put on earth to do, you believe it's made a difference having a mentor, having a supportive family membership in your household has helped you? And if so, what about the kid who don't have the mother, the father at home that's supporting them? What would you say to that young man who's trying to navigate and they have mentors or teachers or coaches to support them?
I would say you have to just open up. Like you have to open up. You got to be vulnerable. You got to let these people know like what you're going through. Because if you just hold it in, nobody will ever know. And it's like you're just holding it deep inside. You holding it deep inside. Can't nobody help. Can't nobody come in and try to help and try to heal and take you out of the circumstances that you're in. Can't nobody help if you don't open up. So I feel like it's a lot about opening up and just saying what's on your mind and being yourself and not trying to be anybody else.
So opening up, I think is one facet, but it's kind of going back to what our earlier panelists said. Is like this whole idea what Otis Woods was saying of we got to be tough, we got to carry a certain, we can't show emotions. Real men don't cry. Real men don't go through things. We don't ever show our emotions, and so it's been kind of taught and ingrained within our culture. But do you get emotional? Do you ever cry? How do you show your emotions, and is that okay?
It's definitely okay to be emotional. I mean, it's just a part of who you are. I feel like if nobody showed emotions, then what would be life? Life is about emotions. We live emotions every day, mad, sad, angry, whatever it is, that's all emotions. So nobody can say that they don't feel emotion, don't show emotion. But I just feel like, yeah, like you said, like acting tough is not trying to show emotion. It's not trying to show that, I have these things going on because you feel like nobody else is going through it. You feel like you're the only person going through it and you feel like, nobody else can help because nobody else is in the situation that you're in. But other people have been in the same situation. You know, you just have to open up and reach out to those people so they can know and try to guide you through those situations so you don't make the same mistakes.
That's so excellent. That's so good. I want you to hang on, but I want to go to my brother from Detroit. I want to go to Lance Woods. He has a phenomenal movement out in the Detroit area. And as we talk about solutions, I want us to understand that it's not one silver bullet. There are different approaches that we must take because we have, like I said, layered issues that have been plaguing us for decades, for centuries, really, if we really want to get technical about this situation. But Brother Lance, can you come in and just kind of share what you've been doing in the Detroit area?
Yeah, definitely. But before I even get to that, like I said, my background, I've worked with young people for the past 6 years. And I'm a Detroit public school. Some very tough times growing up, just like Thaddeus and Jay Shar. And that's the reason why I came to Chicago. Like I came to Chicago because I was like, yo, let me immerse myself in another culture that's similar to mine to see what the culture is like in another city. I'm sure y'all hear much about what's happening here. Very similar to Chicago, and being, you know, like coming from where I come from 48204, west side of Detroit, out of Northwestern High School, you don't see too many guys that come out of that type of environment and then go on to graduate from college and pretty much like make something of themselves from like straight through. You know, people have kids and so many different things. People locked up, dead, you know, and these are the type of people that I was hanging around. So that's why I felt like it was my calling. Once I noticed that when I was in school and all my friends start getting killed or going to jail, it was like, yo, I have to do something about this with the knowledge that I'm obtaining. So then that's when I made a decision to move back to Detroit and get into the schools and have conversations with the young people and understand people like Thaddeus to see where can I fit in, because I felt like I can relate coming from that type of school system on pushing them to another level. And it's important for us, like as mentors, to really listen to the youth because they really have the answers. And as a mentor, we have to really pull out the greatness that exists within them. I had the opportunity to work at Cody High School as a dream director. And as a dream did was develop programs, push students towards whatever dreams, goals, vision that they had to create a culture shift in the school based off their vision. And I had many young people create some phenomenal projects that then in turn empower other people because they saw their peers doing some phenomenal things in the school to really get on that bandwagon. You know what I mean? So you got it. First, you have to be able to relate with the kids and meet them where they at or meet them where they are. And then from there, work backwards, because a lot of times as mentors, we trying to provide advice all the time. And the kids be like, yo, like, you don't even really feel me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't really even understand what I'm going through. Because once they leave these four walls, they got to go back home and deal with that trauma. So you gotta really immerse yourself with what they're experiencing. And then what Thaddeus was saying was be vulnerable. If they being vulnerable, they gotta feel comfortable to be vulnerable, first of all. And then on top of that, in that vulnerable space, you gotta share some stories with them too. You know what I mean? So you gotta be vulnerable as well. So it's a two-way street. We can't just expect them to be vulnerable and then not share stories of our childhood or past traumas that we had to deal with and overcome. We gotta meet them both ways. So in working in education, those are the things that I found, and I'm always vulnerable. And being in that space, I learned so much more about myself and the things that I had to do work on within myself to become a better person. And that's some of the things that we need to do, and we need to continuously do to be better men, and also to help them become better men. So now we can talk about the Run Club, where the things that I've learned in the school system has helped me become a better leader in the community, because you're talking about bringing young people together in teams and taking them from a space where they don't know each other, and then they have to work together as a cohesive unit. It's pretty much what we're doing with the Run Club, because running is what brings the community together. And our slogan is to connect, run, and build. And we put run in the middle because running is what's in the middle that brings us together. But you're connected with like-minded individuals through running to build a healthier and happier community. In our communities, I mean, we got food deserts, we got liquor stores on every corner. We have no access to healthy foods, or very limited access to healthy foods. It seems like it's obsolete. But because I have the knowledge, I see it on a different level. And this is what I had to experience as a kid. Going to Coney Islands, which is terrible food, not having access to whole foods is really plaguing on your mind, because the things that you consume, the saying goes, you are what you eat. And all of the traumas you experience in school, the things that you consuming, it shows up in the schools. So now it's like, how can I empower the people from within? And with running, if I'm running consistently and I'm running and then I'm sweating and I'm getting healthy, I'm going to think more about what I'm consuming, right? So now I'm unlocking another part of my mind to say, I'm not going to eat the Coney Island. I'm not going to go to the liquor store and drink like that, because I got to get up and run. It ain't no fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, going to the liquor store, then you got to get up and run.
Right.
You know what I mean? And these people are coming out consistently to run. Like I said, we got 200, our most impactful run, we had like close to 250 people running down Woodward, which is a main street in Detroit, all together. That's wow. 250 Black people running down the street. It looked like a million-man march. But that's what we're doing. We're building a healthier and prosperous community, and we're working from the inside out. Because when you working from the inside out, you're talking about your lung capacity, you're talking about your blood pressure levels. You know, the things that's killing us in these communities is what we have access to. And Vondell, you talked about this. It's systemic, right? So the things that's readily available to our communities is trash food and liquor stores, and things that don't help us prosper or meet our full potential. So, but if I can do something about that and empowering the people to practice a little bit more self-love, then they'll think about what they do within themselves. So it's kind of like, I mean, everybody be saying it's like a church, man, like, because the way that the people come together, the way that we come together, the community, and having so many people, it's beautiful, man. I've never seen nothing like this, and I would be lying to you if I said that I expected anything like this. But you could check it out and see what we have going on in Detroit. It's really phenomenal. And I take a step back and I'm just in awe about the growth that I see in people. And yeah, I'm grateful. It's out of my hands. It's all God work. So,
hey, Lance, you know what I like about you is you take initiative. Even a few years ago when you reached out to me and you end up coming to the conference and you was there, you was just, ready. And then I came to Detroit for the first time and you was at that event because you're part of the Black Male Educators Alliance of Michigan. And I'm yes, like, sir. See, when you're surrounding yourself around greatness and you are able to exude that greatness because you've surrounded yourself with it. And I think people got to understand that too. It's just not just happening around you. It's happening to you and through you. And fellas, I definitely want Otis, Crater, or Leatherwood to just kind of add to this conversation. Raise your hand if you want to jump in. I can see you. All right, brother Crater is going to come in as well. But, man, keep up the great work out there in Detroit. We want to be able to kind of merge that movement into Chicago some type of way. I know you're getting sponsorships and stuff like that. And so, yeah, man, let's continue to talk about how we can build some solutions on the physical end. Because we can talk head, mental, spiritual, but we got to be able to focus on the physical. And it's nothing like running together. Nothing like it in the world. All right, brother Chris.
Well, first and foremost, I want to say that was powerful to hear Brother Woods and Brother Jones share their stories. And did you hear the passion in Brother Woods' voice? That's how you know it's genuine. That's how you know it's real, right? I can think back to when I started teaching. A lot of my young men was like, man, this dude corny, right? He got the polo shirt on. Like, I don't know you, dude, right? And we had to break down some of those layers, right? They had to know I'm from North London. I'm from the west side of Chicago. They had to know I was kicked out of high school, too. They got to know that I lost my mom at a young age. And when we started sharing those small things, a lot of great, powerful mountains were moved in the classroom. And ultimately, it resulted in a lot of great love, right? So, Mr. Woods, you were right head on when you're talking about it's that culturally responsive pedagogy, being able to reach your young men, being able to switch it up, right? And also, too, being able to convene spaces like this, right? You're right. We can have a conversation, with all the older guys around, and we can share best practices and how it used to be. But right now, we the old cats, right? And we're looking to learn and grow from our young people, our young men. So to be able to have a space like this where we have all walks of life, that's how we get sustainable solutions, things that we can, grab onto and plug into. So I'm just deeply excited, man. And you're right, Mr. Singleton, we got to get that Detroit movement up here too, right? Like that's something that our guys would love to get involved in, right? Our guys just want to be a part of something. And I think if we can, if our guys can see our excitement and power for it, right? A lot of our guys haven't been given those positive affirmations every day, right? So they, every day in my classes say Happy Monday, and they're like, Mr. Crater, it's not happy, it's Monday. And I'm like, no, but we here though.
That's right.
And while we here, we got to get it, right? So I do think that there are so many different components into building strong Black and brown young men. But the first step, right? We have to acknowledge that our young men are powerful. We have to acknowledge that they're in the room and that their voices mean something. That's a big piece, right? It's a small thing, but done with great love, it makes big mountains move. And I think one thing that the pandemic has taught us, right? This is an unprecedented moment, but it has brought out a lot of unprecedented creativity. You can't see your guys every week, but you're like, you know what? I can't see them in person, but guess what though, right? I'm gonna have these Zoom sessions and we're gonna figure it out. Or if my young men need me to, pull up outside and I let the window down, right? I've seen our city come together in so many ways. Every day I'm on phone calls calling, Jamal Cole and Diane Laddick and some of the top non-for-profit folks in the city that are boots on the ground, and to hear their stories about how they've been able to reach these young people is power, man. So just grateful tonight just to be on a panel like this. And I look forward to, taking this power and energy and being able to plug it into our guys, because they need, our guys are powerful and they need us, right? Like they are not just important 5 years from now. They are more than our future. They are our present. They're important right now. So thank you, Mr. Woods. You just fired me up.
Hey, Dr. Leatherwood, you got to get in here, man, because you're ready to fall out your seat. I got to bring you on, man. Yeah, so anything that you wanted to add?
I mean, this is just fantastic. I echo good brother Crater, man. These guys have really set the precedent, I think, for us moving forward. I think solution-oriented, there's no such thing from a theoretical perspective, right? The theory I was talking about earlier and I was pulling from is called PVEST, right? The phenomenological variant of the ecological systems theory. And it's just common sense, really, you know what I'm saying? And the very first component of PVEST is this idea that everybody's vulnerable, right? That everybody's vulnerable. Right? There's a myth that if you think you're too tough, that you can never be touched, right? That you're not supposed to feel, like Brother Jones was saying, right? That idea that's a myth, right? So if everyone is vulnerable, that means that we have these risk and protective factors that are in our environments that have the potential to shape us, right? And if we can engage each other, if we can connect. My good brother just said we connect, we run, and we build. Come on, if we can connect, just like with the Marvelous Keeper initiative, If we can connect, then we can do the good work, whatever that work looks like, and then we can build collectively. That's called collective efficacy, right? So I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful that we're speaking across these. Everybody's doing something different on this call, right? On this live town hall. Everybody's doing something different, but we're speaking a similar language. And the solution for me right off the bat today is be vulnerable. Be vulnerable. Tell the truth. Tell your truth. Somebody's listening to you. And how can we ask our children ever to do something that we're not willing to do ourselves?
That's so powerful.
That's where the breakthroughs are. For real, that's where the breakthroughs are. So I'm just really excited. Theoretically, it makes sense. I see it in practice because we're talking, and you can tell Thaddeus has been listening to somebody. I mean, yes, he's brilliant. He's brilliant. You know, he's a graduating senior, but you can tell he's been listening to somebody because he got the old head wisdom. You know what I'm saying? He sounds like somebody. You know what I mean? But that's the ideal, right? That we connect, we do the good work, and we build. Right. And the ideal is if you ever think, young brothers, I don't care where you are in the world, I don't care how old you are, young, old, indifferent. If you believe that you are not vulnerable, that your emotions don't matter, right, that you don't feel, that is a myth. And I'm here to tell you that there are people that love you, right, that you have support. And at the end of the day, you got everything you need in you and around you, especially if you position yourself like, you know, saying the other brother was talking about his branding. You got everything you need to be successful. So I'm really excited. Grateful for that, and I'm going to be more vulnerable myself now, you know what I'm saying, moving forward.
What an awesome way. Before I let brother Woods, the other brother Woods, Otis Woods, come on, go ahead and type your questions real quick. Panelists, I just want you to hang out for another 5 minutes. Believe it or not, it's been over an hour. I know time has gone really fast. But if you have any questions out there, go ahead and type them in and direct your questions to any one of our panelists or to the general panelists at large. But brother Otis, I'm gonna bring you in, man. But that was powerful. All of these dots and all of the nuggets that we're sharing is just giving us more courage to get out front and do what's right on behalf by removing these barriers, providing safe spaces for our boys and young men of color. So I appreciate you, brothers. Brother Woods, what do you have?
I've been enjoying the conversation. I learned a lot, especially from Dr. Leatherwood here in the academia and how the different mindsets that we should teach Black people. Mr. Carter, the things that he was saying, and Mr. Lance as well. We've been talking about how our problems are systematic. I think we need solutions that are systemic as well. Also, I'm just trying to figure out how to connect the different dots. I'm hearing Mr. Lance. How do I get that movement in Chicago? How do we scale Dr. Leatherwood's academic research to adult men from 18 to 24, because we mentoring the youth, but they go back to other males that's, you know, influencing the world. How do we influence the entire circle? And then also I've always people talking about these different ideas. You know, I mentor kids as well at my school, and then as soon as I mentor them, they go back into the same environment. So I was like in the military, you know, they take their soldiers out the environment for an extended amount of time. And they, you know, kind of brainwash them, put new things in them, and then they don't go back into that environment until at least months after. So if we can do that to kids over the summer and just take them out their environment for like an extended amount of time and mesh into them maybe 3 months, 4 months to give back to their environment, they have, you know, a built up character to resist and fight that trauma that they deal with every day. I think that'll be a great idea. And then I'm just trying to think of how we can connect the dots with also Mr. Hartley with the entrepreneurship. And how do we just scale this and make it big and change the narrative is what's on my mind.
And thank you so much for that point. But I want to bring Malik Jones in, one of our young men, to add his voice to this conversation as well.
Yeah, so I was just listening, and I just wanted to tie it back to a few things. I'm also looking at, if you see me looking down, I'm looking at the live chat. And there were two people that I wanted to add with what I wanted to say. I wanted to add Sterling and Mr. Lamb, and some of the comments that they're saying. You guys talked about the aspects of vulnerability, and how, you know, some of that helps into creating the character that you want to be in. You asked me the question of how I became successful and what motivated me to do so. Say that it was one of the biggest things was being vulnerable. And just taking the aspect of Otis and Sterling being some of the people when it came to cross country. I wasn't a big sports person. My brother was the person that was in cross country, but walking towards Gary Coleman, they used to always tell me like, you should join, you should do it. And I was like, I don't want to. I always put up that wall of, that's not me. I don't want to do that. That's just something that my brother did. Don't add me to it. But the more I got into it, the more I started to see the connections that I got from doing the runs, and it was also like a relief in a way, because it got my mind off a lot of things that was going on all at once. It got me to focus more on just like running for me was something that made it easier for me to focus in school, because if I could focus on my pace, I could focus on my running, I focused on my asthma, it was just those things that showed me if I could focus on this, something that I didn't really want to do, I could focus on something that I wanted to do. And talking about the vulnerability, I came to plenty of times, I came to you, Mr. Singleton, about major things that happened to me. I'm not perfect. I will you're never going to be perfect. You're always going to find some way to strengthen yourself in any type of way. And with that being said, I've come to you, I've come to Mr. Lamb in many occasions where I was just vulnerable, where I needed somebody to uplift me. I needed somebody to guide me. And with that, it helped me to understand where I wanted to go with that. And just talking about like the connections, those connections from what you guys have told me, from what we did. I was also in the program during the summer of the event that happened. And me and Thaddeus was sitting right next to each other when it happened. That's when the summer was when I first met Thaddeus. And basically it was just those different connections that really kept me strong, because it showed me that's the outcome of what can happen to you if you don't stay on the right path. And also just like being in the environment that I was in, it was just also knowing that if I wanted to be better than what people are portraying me to be, I have to do better. I have to be better. And that's also coming into contact with that vulnerability. I had to be vulnerable in order to accept the help that somebody was trying to give me in order to get where I wanted to go.
Thank you for sharing that, Thaddeus.
Yes.
Anything you want to add to that?
I could definitely add something to that. I guess I wanted to kind of relate that to like the topic of what's going on with the class of 2020, and kind of speak on, I guess, how we might be feeling during this time.
Yep.
So I guess we feel like, well, for me, I know we feel like it's kind of everything is falling apart a little bit for us. We definitely didn't expect it. We kind of feel like why did this happen to us? I guess we're feeling kind of hurt, because it's like this was a very, very, very important moment for us, like graduation, prom, and everything. Not just kind of being taken away for like seniors and everything across the world. It really does like hurt a little bit. Like it has a bit of a sting, but it's always going to be challenges. So you just have to find out the best way to overcome them, and don't necessarily stay on the situation. You gotta have to kind of move on from it. Like, we're gonna have to move on from COVID. So we're just gonna have to find solutions as to what we can do after this. So, make sure we still have those moments and, prom and everything together one last time. So those moments never fade away.
All right. So we're going to take 3 closing thoughts from our panelists. Not everybody have to share, but if you want to share, just go ahead and slip your hand up, and I'll get you on if you want to share some closing thoughts as we build solutions out for our boys and young men of color. All right. I got you, Brother Hartley.
So, first off, amazing panel, Vondale. Appreciate you putting together. The 3 things that I would say is 1, be intentional each and every day. 2, decision, recreate yourself whenever you feel like it, whenever you want to. And 3, if you don't have a vision, create one. If you don't know how to start with creating a vision, get with a mentor, somebody that you look up to, so that you can formulate what that vision looks like for you. You all are kings and queens, and you can achieve whatever you want to.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and close this out. If no one else had anything to share with our Champs Creed.
Every setback is a setup for greatness. Every failure is a ladder towards greatness. Every goal is applied towards my greatness. Every life experience enhances my greatness. Every task perfects my greatness. The divine guides my greatness. I am greatness in the making.
As a member of CHAMPS, I will conduct myself in a positive manner and with integrity. To achieve all my goals to the best of my ability.
All right, everybody. We're going to close out with Dr. Leatherwood. He has something that he wanted to share. If you can come in, brother.
Yep. I just want to say, first of all, thanks again, Vondell, for hosting this. As Brother Hartley said, one thing, first solution, be vulnerable. It doesn't matter who you are, capacity you're in. If you're a mentor, be vulnerable. If you're a parent, be vulnerable. If you're a child, if you're a student, be vulnerable. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes, there are spaces that they may not feel it's safe for you to be vulnerable. Use good common sense, but be vulnerable. Number two, right? We need to create, from a solution perspective, spaces where young people can come consistently and build relationship. We need to be able to create spaces where young people can come consistently and build relationship. Relationship breeds accountability. And the more we know about our young people, the more relationship we have with our young people, the more likely we are to be able to hold them accountable and for them to also feel accountable to us. And then lastly, identity formation, again, identity formation is not a static process. You can always, as Brother Hartley said, you can always do the work of exploring new identity. That's what identity formation really is about, exploration. So do not hesitate to explore. So be vulnerable. Let's create spaces, consistent, stable spaces where young people can come and build a relationship with other individuals, right? And do not hesitate to explore your identity.
All right. Boom. And so again, thanks everybody for joining the virtual town hall. My name is Vondell Singleton, the founder of the Champs Male Mentoring Program. One of my missions is to bring our brothers together. And that's the one thing that I have been assigned to do. And so you'll never see Champs say we have a corner on anything. We've worked with just about every organization out there that's helping boys and young men of color. We do summits, we do conferences, and the whole goal is to bring us together. It's nothing that we cannot do when we together. And so unity, vulnerability, as Dr. Leatherwood has mentioned, and all of the other aspects that we have shared. We want you to take this, share this, and then next week we'll be back with more panelists adding to this conversation. Look, we knocking on the door. If you don't let us in, we kicking down the door, but we are coming. We will not stop fighting for resources and sustainable solutions for our boys and young men of color. Thank you so much.
CHAMPS, culturally helping them make